It's story time.
So I quit social media.
Oh, good for you.
You know what? And I'm not like a social media hater, but it is getting really old seeing everything bad that's happening in the world.
There's a lot of bad happening too. So that's just got to be like because I'm not on social media.
Right.
I don't do the socials except for the stuff for the podcast, of course.
Right.
But like that's got to be like a cavalcade of things.
Oh my God, it's one thing after the other. If it's, people complaining, we have like just nasty, horrible hatred towards different political parties on both sides.
That's right.
Right?
We've got the
virus. We've got natural disasters, cities being blown up in Lebanon.
Jeez.
Like, I just can't take it anymore. Like, it feels like the world is going to end.
That's it. Well, good for you for getting off of the socials because, all that is just that's just like something poking your brain.
It really is. All it does is create more and more anxiety for me.
I'm sorry. But good.
Yeah.
See? I'm glad I could hopefully have influenced that a little bit. Maybe.
You totally did. You and
Yes.
your anarchist nature.
Yes, I'm loving it.
So instead of going onto social media, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to read some more historical nonfiction.
Oh, good. What'd you read?
About the classical empires.
So you replaced one horrible civilization destructing narrative with just a whole series of other ones.
I did. I really thought, because, classical civs, especially in Europe, don't thrill me at all, but I needed to brush back up on them.
Right.
But the book I picked up was about the fall of the classical empires, and it is just hitting a little too close to home right now.
You got the virus, you got the political infighting, you got the destruction of
So I think that's what
a one-to-one replacement.
Yeah, I think that's what we should talk about today. How close we are to the end.
All right, are we ready to get started?
I think we're ready.
All right, okay, guys. Well, welcome. This is Storytime with the Historist, the podcast for world history students, teachers, and enthusiasts. It's world history, but it's told our way. And in today's episode, we discuss the fall of the classical empires and whether or not we are headed in that same direction. And really,
I don't think there's whether or not. I think it's how soon we're headed in the same direction.
And gloom. All right. Well, the aim of the story we're trying to tell today is not the story of one particular civilization or one group of people or one individual person per se. So it's a little bit different sort of story. It's really a kind of building on what we talked about in the last episode with we've got all these people living together. We've got everybody collectivized in one place. And then eventually the systems that we surround ourselves with, they need to support us. And if those systems start to crumble, the problem becomes human beings don't have the ability to just like snap back into survival mode and be, hunter-gatherers again.
I know. And for our listeners today, we're actually going to try to make this into a more positive account, not a doomsday account. But there were just too many connections between what's happening in today's society and the classics that I thought we got to cover this. We got to learn from the past.
I think so as well. And that's the key. I mean, that's the whole study of history, right? You got to learn from the things that happened before you. So we're going to be talking about three civilizations in particular. We're going to be talking about the granddaddy of them all, Han Dynasty.
Woo,
we're going to be in China. That's you.
That's
you.
me, baby.
We've got the Roman Empire, right? The classical Roman Empire.
That's all
and then we've got the Gupta Empire, which is one that if you're a world history buff or nerd, you know about, but the layman person out there, like the WHO now. And so we're going to be transporting ourselves into Southern Asia, into India, and we'll talk about the fall of them. And then we're going to look at some themes and patterns because that's really what emerges out of all this.
Yeah, because no matter whether it's Rome or Han China or Gupta India, they're all going to fall for the exact same reasons. And those are the reasons that we're seeing in today's society as well. They fall because of corrupt government.
That's right.
They fall because of some type of invasion.
That's right.
And they fall because of disease.
Dun, dun, dun. So, again, you have done nothing to replace your social media woes.
No, this is just as bad.
1-to-1, maybe even worse, because there's still a chance for us. These guys don't have one. So why don't you kick us off? Let's go to your baby. Let's go
China.
back to the pillar of human civilization, the granddaddy of them all, like I said. Talk to us about Han China. Who are they? Why they fell apart? And why do we care?
Okay, so Han China, one of the two, what we'd call golden ages in Chinese history, the other one being the Tang Dynasty. We'll get to them later. Han Dynasty is extremely important because they're the ones who began to use Confucianism as the base of government.
That's a big one.
That's huge in Chinese society. Things were going well. They had some land reform. society was getting better under Confucianism. They allowed Buddhism. No, actually, yes, they did allow Buddhism a little bit. But they were just a really great civilization. Things were going really well in Han China. I mean, this is where we start getting the technological advancements. Like it's a sweet time. But
so it's safe to say that when our listener thinks back to like stereotypical ancient China, this is what they're imagining.
Yeah, this is awesome stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
But they fall, like we said, for a few reasons. Number one, the government just became corrupt, and it didn't start out as corrupt. The whole basis of using Confucianism as the system of government was to avoid the corruption they had seen like under the Zhou and the harshness of legalism under the Qin. And it worked at first. It was brilliant.
Right, yeah. I mean, you're taking the best people out of every, turning over every rock. You're finding the best, the brightest, the smartest. You give them a series of tests. They're going to rise up to the top. Each person who can pass another test, another test, they keep going up to the top. It's like a true idea of a meritocracy.
Exactly. Yeah. And it really worked until Han China gets too big. And the bigger it gets with territorial acquisition, the more government officials you're going to need.
You don't have the internet. You don't have telephones. You can't DM somebody and just be like, hey, this is what we're trying to do today.
Yeah, and it became too hard to, even with the best of the best of the best, it's too hard to govern, especially when you start getting emperors who are more interested in their lavish lifestyles and their own power than they are in governing the country.
You're telling me that when you collectivize all that money and wealth and privilege and power into one place, that eventually the people who have access to all of those things will stop caring about the common man? Mm-hmm. I'm shocked. That's scandalous.
I know. You're very, very shocked.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, go back and listen to episode 1 from this season, Gutter Trash and State-Sponsored Sorrow, because you could see this one coming a mile away.
Yeah. And so that's one reason they fall. Another reason is, China was pretty much ethnocentric and xenophobic, and they let everybody know they thought they were the best, and everybody else was barbaric. And they do have outside groups on the borders, especially like the Xiongnu from the north.
The Xiongnu, that's right, dude.
And China eventually makes enough people mad enough and tries to, take over territory that people are going to fight back.
That's what happens. That's what happens. You have these, because remember, we talked about not everybody went to living in states. Not everybody decided they were going to become sedentary and collectivize all their resources. There were a lot of people out there who were like, nah, that's not for me. And those people were out there living in the proverbial wilderness, the grasslands, and they become badass horsemen. They become great warriors. They become traders. They become everything that they need to be to survive in a world that keeps them on the outside. And eventually, a lot of them decide, you know what? Why are we afraid of these city dwellers?
Well, especially as they're encroaching on, if you're nomadic, pastoral nomadic, which these groups were, you need that land. And if people are going to encroach upon it, that's your survival. You have to fight back. And so Han China was constantly plagued by invasions. And then we're just going to top it all off with a little disease, a little smallpox, and a little measles. And they simply can't recover from all three at once.
You've got the soup. You've made the soup. This is the civilization downfall soup, right?
Right.
Bad leadership, invasion, disease. And this stresses the system, because remember, we talked a lot about social structures, we talked about economic systems and all that interdependence. People have to believe that the government is working for them.
Right.
And in China, they stopped believing, right?
They totally did, because here you have a corrupt government who wants to raise taxes on you because they need more money to deal with their corruption. People aren't going to pay those taxes, and then it completely falls apart in Han China, and it's the same thing we're going to see in Rome.
I'm just saying, in my mind, I'm like, that's the same thing that happened in Rome, because Rome starts out as like the city on these 7 hills, and then they're going to start to expand out, and they're like going to go to Gaul, modern day France, and they're going to fight this guy Vercingetorix, and boom, they destroy him. Then they go to like what is Britannia. They fight this like super awesome warrior princess. We should totally do an episode on her one day.
Is her name Xena?
Her name is Boadicea, but I think Xena was probably like based on this archetype. Boadicea is like, not my people, not my land. She's got that whole William Wallace thing from Braveheart. They kill her. And then the Romans turn and they go and they start fighting against the Germanic people, and they even fight against like Hannibal and the Carthaginians.
And they take over everybody.
They take over the entire Mediterranean, all of Europe, the Middle East, North Africa. They become really, really big as well. And then what starts to happen? All that money, grain, resources, everything starts pouring into the center of Rome. The Roman people become corrupted by all of this power, the people living out on the periphery. Like some of the stuff that we have says that these people were eating like dog meat, the people living out on the periphery. The Romans would sell dog meat to the children
Nasty.
And the people, and then inside of the cities, they're living large, high on the hog,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So you have that same problem of that social corrupted. There was like, of the last like 26, 27 Roman emperors, like 24, 25 of them were assassinated. They didn't die of normal causes.
Yeah. Well, that's because they suck.
I don't even know what's the normal
Yeah, seriously, normal cause.
That is an absurd, like choking on some sort of like
I
chicken bone
believe
or
the
something.
word you were looking for was natural causes.
Natural cause, normal, natural, potato.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have that same sort of issue. You have all this corruption. In fact, the empire splits. If
Right.
you want to get more into the depth of this, there's like a million good books, documentaries, podcasts out there about Rome. That's not for us, right?
No, and you really have to like Rome to want to read those
Yeah,
books.
you got to be a Romophile.
Yeah.
All right, so you got that issue right there, corruption inside of the
Right.
government. Then you have all of this invasion. So those same groups of people, like the Xiongnu might have been the same group of people who were invading Rome, just under a different name.
True. Not completely
Who knows?
solidified yet with but it totally could be legit. Who knows?
The timelines match up,
It
the
does.
descriptions match up. But even so, these group of people, the Romans called them the Hun,
Mm-hmm.
and the Huns were chasing off like other crazy warriors, like the Goths and the Vandals and all these other people out of Central Europe and Asia. And they start invading Rome because the Goths and the Vandals, they're trying to get away from the Huns. The Huns are destroying the Romans. It's like this whole crazy thing. That's where we get this guy Attila. And
Oh, a side note for Attila. My dad did that whole genealogy kind of thing. Apparently, you can trace my dad's lineage back to Attila the Hun.
see, that's just further proof that if everybody does some sort of lineage sort of testing, we all have at least one serial killer psychopath.
Yeah, I'm not
in
going to
our
lie.
lineage.
I mean, it's kind of a little badge of honor being somewhat related to Attila the Hun. The guy was, not the viciousness, but hey, known in history.
He died, he choked to death on his own vomit. So,
I know,
I
you gotta
mean,
do what you gotta do.
live hard, die hard.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you get the Romans and then like the Goths, this guy Gaiseric invades Rome in like 410 and sacks Rome, and then the Vandals come in, which the Vandals, by the way, like give rise to like that word vandalism, which gives
here
us
we
some
go.
idea of how bad they were. And you know where I'm going with this.
I
You got some
do.
music connection. I wear the patch on my jacket every single day. The Vandals, the punk rock band, their first full-length album is called When in Rome, Do As the Vandals, right? Totally destroyed.
We're going to tie every single
I
episode
could-
back to your punk rock
I could
lineage,
do
aren't
it
we?
every single time.
I know we are.
It's deep. The punks are deep. You can't judge a book by its cover or a person by their hairdo, right? So then to cap it all off, the Romans also suffer from not just a loss of grain, not just a loss of territory. They also suffer from measles or smallpox as well.
Seriously?
Yeah, great book out there that you can check out called Justinian's Flea, which is all about the plague, the early plague that swept through what is now like would be called Byzantium, but
Right.
East Rome,
Right.
made its way into West Rome and just kind of like burned down the rubble. And Rome and the European center, that's not going to recover for about 600, 700 years.
Yeah, and then you go a little farther east, heading back east, and we see the same thing happen with the Gupta.
Now, the Gupta is like, I feel like the Gupta is such a tragic story because like there's all this hubris in the Han dynasty. There's all
Right.
this hubris in the Roman empire.
Mhm.
The Gupta, they were taking all their money and everything else. And yeah, there was a little bit of corruption, but they were reinvesting it in like science and technology. They were like the Silicon Valley in
Ooh,
some
nice
ways
analogy.
of the ancient world. Like they were doing some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, but I think India is always, especially early on, going to be problematic just because it is so hard to unite
Yes.
that subcontinent. There is so much geographical diversity,
Right.
which leads to different pockets of, I don't want to say civilizations, but different groups of people.
Right.
They develop their own languages, they
Yeah.
develop their own customs, and with the Gupta being a tributary state, which is, not a bad idea to rule India. That's probably the most effective that they've had. It's hard to hold control in a tributary state.
Yeah. So explain that term to us a little bit.
So a tributary state is someone where you have a centralized government, but they know they're not either strong enough or big enough to be able to directly control the people who they rule over. So what they do is they demand tribute in the form of taxes or whatever else. And in return for that tribute, the territories that they govern are given a lot of autonomy. And autonomy means to rule yourself however you best see fit.
So it's like a mafia sort of system, right? Like they come, they skim the top of whatever that state's doing. They take, 20, 30, 40%, whatever the central government
Right.
wants. They're like, hey, you guys, and someone come back, we'll give you protection, but, we're in charge.
Right. Yeah. I think maybe a little less violent than the mafia.
I don't know.
But hey.
The Gupta had a pretty formidable army. I mean, that's how they gained control of the territory after everything had gone chaotic. That, and they did bring back Hinduism, which was pretty important as well. But again, I look at them as slightly different because, you look at the mathematical advances that are going to make their way out of India.
Academic advancements,
they'll make their way into the Middle East and they'll become part of the House of Wisdom. The pharmaceutical industry, the astrology, like one of my favorite terms in all of world history, the Gentar Mentar, which was like this giant rock like machine that measured the stars and their positions in space and relative to each other, like deep thinking sort of stuff. But they get hit with that same soup, right?
Yeah, they get a little bit of corruption government.
Soup.
They've got measles and smallpox too. And then they've got invasions. It's only this time it's not the Huns, it's the White Huns.
Very original naming that was going. That's a spinoff.
Right.
That's a spinoff. But the same sort of thing happens there. So, I mean, we kind of sound like a broken record, but this is how civilizations fall. And
every single time.
These three civilizations in particular, these were like holding up humanity in
at that time,
Eurasia.
Yeah.
I mean, you
these
think
were the
about
big boys.
These are the ones that if you had thought like who's going to fall, who's going to be destroyed, not them. And why do we care about that? Fast forward to 2020, who's going to fall? Is it going to be the United States, EU? Is it going to be China? Most people would say, nah, man, those are forever civilizations.
Oh, no.
They're not falling apart. And here we are at the end of 2020. And
we're heading down the same path.
Everybody's on their knees in a lot of ways, begging for mercy.
Yeah, and this is, because I was thinking about Rome, because the United States gets compared to Rome a lot.
All the time.
Right, all the time.
All the time.
And so it made me start thinking how much of this soup how many ingredients have we already put into the proverbial pot?
We're sprinkling them in and fast.
Yeah, and politically you look at it, and whether you're talking to an independent or Republican or Democrat, they're going to find that government's corrupt in whatever way. You see Democrats saying it's Trump, he's corrupt, this is what's the problem, so that's a corrupt government from their point of view. You see Republicans saying, if we go towards a more socialist, that leads to a corrupt system,
and
which
the
there
analog,
is precedence.
The analog there in Rome is that's what the Romans did, right? Whenever the people got angry, they threw bread, they had gladiatorial games, it just gave the people stuff, and at the end, it bankrupted the empire.
Right, and so we have that. Independents don't trust, like at this stage of the game, anybody. So you do have evidence of at least in people's minds of a corrupt government. So there's one ingredient.
So you've got that piece. And then on top of it, I mean, we're all living through, I know we try to do an evergreen show, but like right now, the National Security Council just came out with like, hey, watch out, China and Russia are influencing elections. They're both working to get either party into power because that would benefit that party the best. You've got what's been going on in the Middle East. You've got India and Pakistan and North Korea and all these like hotspots that could very easily pull the United States into some sort of warfare.
Right.
And so it might not be invasion in the classical sense of the term, but that whole idea of the military and weakening the core of the civilization, that's a real problem.
Well, and cyber attacks, cyber invasion is everywhere. And we have evidence of that from whether it's from China or anybody else. And I'm sure the United States isn't completely innocent, without a doubt. We all do this stuff. No. But certainly not to the extent we have seen other nations.
What was that book, like Ted Koppel's Lights Out?
Yeah.
Lights Out, and the cyber threats that are telecommunication and power grids are under, like, think about back, in, what was it, like 2004 and the power outage that brought down the entire East Coast and all that stuff, and from like a squirrel falling on a power line in Ohio or something like that. Like, yeah, we're vulnerable.
Oh,
for
totally.
Sure.
And I tell my son, because my son's like, you ever think we're going to have World War III? I said, I'm sure at some point we will, but it's not going to be a land-based war. This is going to be a technological war. And
absolutely.
And I don't think
it could be in space.
I don't think any of the big nations are prepared for that. Like,
no, it
would take an EMF pulse, and that would be it.
What we would have is a World War I sort of situation where everybody's gearing up for something. They have no idea what's to come. Yeah. And then
the pandemic throws the third freaking ingredient in disease.
And what's scary about this is like COVID-19 related deaths and illnesses. We just surpassed 5 million right now in the United States alone, confirmed cases.
Oh, I thought you meant, I'm like, I don't think we're at 5 million.
Confirmed cases. We're closing in on the United States 170,000 dead, which that death rate of,
I think it's like 3%.
3%, which is very high. Most pandemics, global pandemics historically don't surpass 10, and those are the big ones. And some of those numbers are dubious, like the Black Death numbers are definitely inflated. But this is not the one that everybody was preparing for either. This came out of left field in a lot of ways. Something like super flu, like actual flu. That's what they're really scared of. Or think back to the AIDS pandemic in the 1980s and what that did to the globe and the United States as well. Like these sorts of things can very, very quickly grind the gears of society to a halt.
Right, and I don't think we're going to face the death rates like we would face under a Black Plague in the 1300s or anything like that. But
Hope not.
Yeah, seriously, because that'll be it. I'll lose it. That's all it's going to take.
That'd be like Contagion. Have you seen that movie?
No, we don't watch those things. You know me. God, that's like the worst.
Yeah.
It's more if even looking at it from an economic perspective, right? I don't think it's the death rate that's going to get us. I think what it does is it grinds economies to a halt. Look what happened when we had the quarantine and shutdown in March. Businesses closed. People are laid off. People are furloughed. And unemployment benefits, and rightly so, went up because people were losing their jobs. That cannot be sustained.
No, and this is a long-term loss of wealth. I think about it. I think about my people, the millennials, much maligned. But now you've got 9/11, you've got the 2008 recession, that bubble that burst, and now COVID and the COVID-19, what could be depression by the time this is all said and done. The loss of wealth and how that won't be passed down to my kids and my kids won't pass that down. The recovery from this is going to be generational in a lot of ways. And that's problematic. I mean, that's part of what took so long. The Roman Empire never comes back.
Never.
It takes 300-400 years in China to start getting things going again.
Europe, it takes forever.
Europe is if
1,000, 1,100 CE maybe.
If it hadn't been for the expansion of Islam, who knows how long it takes Europe to come back.
So here's the question we have then is if we've got the main three ingredients in the soup pot and we're stirring it up.
They're all there.
How do we stop ourselves from proverbial drinking the soup? What is it we can do to avoid the similar fates of the classical empires?
I think that's a good question. And I honestly...
Don't give me some. No, don't do it. Do not do it, Matt.
I want to say I want to hedge my bet and say no one really knows what to do. But in a lot of ways, what the governmental corruption can be combated with people regaining faith in the system.
Okay,
right?
so that's we can eventually, or maybe hopefully, if we do things right, we can pull that ingredient out of the pot.
Right, and so I mean the whole idea of the Constitution and all these ideals, these revolutionary ideas, these were meant to empower the people, and the roadmap is there, the blueprint is there for us to continue to overcome things, and I think you could have looked at the United States in the mid-19th century, and that soup existed as well, right?
Yes,
you had
I could agree with that.
Slavery, you had corruption inside of the government as a result of slavery, you had war and invasion from the American Civil War, and then you have diseases like cholera and smallpox that were ravaging cities and populations all across the United States, which really goes up to the Mississippi River at that point.
So what you're saying is we just need to regain faith in our government
and our system, right? And you have to self-strengthen, you have to reform, right? It's that whole idea of what Pericles talked about in his funeral oration and what makes you exceptional and leaning into what makes you exceptional, right? So there's that piece of it. In terms of the broader scientific knowledge base that we have about disease, it's crazy to think about we are bickering about how to best combat coronavirus and masks and social distancing and yada yada yada. At the same time, we are working at a breakneck pace, something that's never been seen before in history, towards developing a vaccine.
So maybe
keeping people alive.
The science that we have access to, we obviously know is built, astronomically, superior to what they had earlier. So maybe that scientific knowledge helps us that we don't suffer the same disease fate.
I think the wild card will always be, and the one that makes me always want to say, who knows, is that invasion piece, right? Samuel Huntington, in his really seminal work, Clash of Civilizations, breaks down how quickly and easily civilizations can come into combat with each other and conflict with each other, and how if you don't understand China and you don't understand the broad arc of Chinese history, if you're the United States, it's really, really easy to ignore the signals that China is putting out about, hey, don't mess with us.
Right.
We're on the comeback trail, right? From the United States' perspective, hey, we're the city on the hill. We are exceptional. We are meant to bring civilization in this form that we've created to the rest of the world. That's a core belief still for the United States today. Those two, this ethnocentric, China's coming back to the top, and the United States city on the hill, we're going to bring the world into our, those can crash into each other.
So maybe a little bit better cultural understanding.
That would go a long way, right? But there's so many different people. There's so many different things. If you're a Star Trek person, this is what Gets referenced a lot of times of like the issues with the 21st century and how humanity had to come past this, and like the whole idea of the prime directive and not messing with stuff. And I think this is kind of what that's envisaging is, how do we learn to coexist with each other in a way that respects each other?
So in the end, here's what we've got. We have got all the ingredients ready to go in this, collapse soup.
Yes.
End of civilization
Absolutely.
soup. We've got to prevent ourselves globally from putting those ingredients into the pot.
I think so. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. The gas isn't on, the prep's been done, but the soup's not made.
Okay, so we just got to not make the soup.
Don't make the soup.
That's all right.
This has been the Anti-Soup Podcast from Storytime at the Histories. But that's really the story of class. And like we said, we weren't going to get into the specifics because if you think about it from a broader thematic standpoint, that's what matters most. Yeah.
All right, so we did leave with a sense of hope because the ingredients aren't in the pot yet.
This is a win for us.
Yeah.
This is one of our happiest podcasts yet.
And if you are interested in following any of our other podcasts, some of which that are happy, some of which that are not so much, but thoroughly entertaining, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes.
That's right. iTunes, you can check out our home-based website, anchor.fm/STHistories. That'll have the links to all of our various, platforms or whatever. You can get us on the socials, Twitter and Instagram at Storytime with the Historists. And we got the YouTube page up, right? We got school year coming around right now. So we'll have content out there specifically designed for AP World History students. But again, if you just want to learn something, check that out as well.
Fantastic. And as always, it's been a pleasure, Matt.
I have had a lot of fun discussing the end of the world with you today. Thank you so much for having this idea. That was a lot of fun.
I take pride in it. Thank you so
much. All right.
Well, go ahead.
Talk to you next time.
All right. See you guys next.
Bye.